I'm John, and you're watching Slot Car Mayhem. This is going to be episode 6, and what I'm going to be doing here today is removing the electronics package and stripping the chassis down to nothing but the traction magnets. There's several reasons why you may want to do this. One, you may want to do a deeper clean, which I prefer to do every, say, 5 or 6 standard normal routine cleans that you would perform after a running session. You just want to do a deeper clean sometimes. Sometimes you may want to do a simple repair. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and I've got a loose wire it's making the lights flash up back and forth as we're driving the car, and I want to go ahead and fix that. So I'm going to remove the electronics package and take the front axle out, and that will complete the disassembly phase of the chassis with the exception of the traction magnets. In this case, I'm leaving them in. Right now, currently, I have this disassembled per episode 5. So if you got any questions about that, go check out episode 5, and that'll show you how I got it disassembled to this point, including, of course, removing the braids and the guide flag. Okay, a couple things we want to pay attention to when we're looking at this. I'll try my best to get it in focus here. Okay, if we look here, like right here, that's one of our light chips, LEDs. The little chip is right there. You want to take a look at them and see how they're oriented. Make sure they go in the same way. And if we look at the rear's going to be about the same. Come on, kick in. Okay, rear's about the same, but the chips are on the outside of the car. That's where the lights are. We just want to pay attention to that and make sure we get them back in the same way. Okay, removal is very, very simple. What I do is I remove the light boards. I remove the whole assembly here for the pickups. Remove those. I will remove the screw for the circuit board. And finally, I will pull the motor out. I usually do that last. That's the heaviest component. So we'll begin with pulling the light boards. These are very simple, and what we want to do is just give it ever such a slight little wiggle, and they will just work themselves right out. Be careful of the wires. We don't want to damage the wires. So we'll pull these out. Now these back ones, sometimes you may want to get a small screwdriver underneath because it's kind of hard to grab them. So I'll get a small screwdriver up underneath and just carefully lift, and they come right out. Be very careful when you're doing this. We don't want to damage anything. Okay, that takes care of the light boards. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to remove, come on, focus. This thing just doesn't want to play today. We're going to remove these 2 screws, and we're going to remove this center assembly. You want to be careful when you're removing this because there is a spring, a centering spring, and we want to make sure we keep that we don't lose it. Okay, and that whole assembly we'll just carefully lift right off. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to remove the center screw right here. That's what holds the chip in place. And that takes care of the chip removal. The last thing we have, of course, is the motor itself. And if we look here in the back, all we really need to do is pry this back up and the motor will just pop right out. You can't pry it from the pinion side. You have to come from the back side. Once again, I'm going to take my small screwdriver and I'm going to give it just a little lift, and it just pops right out. And once you got it out, carefully wiggle it, pull it out, and the motor is out. Your entire electronics assembly now is free of the chassis. We'll set that down over here. That's completely free of the chassis. All that's left to do is pop out your front axle. In this case, I have the solid axle, so that will be maintained a certain way. Other than that, if you have the independent axles, you can just pop them out one at a time. And that's it. The chassis is completely disassembled now with nothing but the magnets. We have our front magnet here, of course. Our rear magnet is underneath this little clip here. You can pop that out if you want to remove your magnets, but me, no, right now I'm running with the magnets in the car to keep it equal for everybody else. And that is it. That's how easy it is to remove the electronics package. So I'm going to go ahead and take care of the repair that I need to make, and we'll be back here in just a moment to go ahead and put the electronics package back in the car. Okay, we're back. I've made the repair, just a small solder joint that I made right here to accommodate for the loose wire. And right now we're going to go ahead and we're going to put the electronics package back into the car. So I haven't done any cleaning, I'm just doing a quick repair at this point. So of course the first thing you want to do is you want to put your front axle back in, and once again that just snaps into place. And while I've got it out, I'm going to go ahead and throw a drop of oil on it. Little drop of oil. And if you have any questions on maintaining these things or oiling anything, just please refer to the episode 5 that I put up, because I take that through all the oiling and cleaning. Okay. Putting this system back in is exactly the reverse of removal. I will start with my motor, and once again making sure the electronics, looks like we got some capacitors here, are on top. And you can just go ahead and push the motor pinion through the little hole and carefully spread the chassis, and the motor clips right back into place. It's that easy. After that, I will go ahead and I'll put my screw in and get my circuit board put into place. Make sure it's correct. If you can see the LED, that needs to go down. That goes into this little hole right here in the chassis. So make sure you've got it oriented properly. Rotate the electronics around. Okay, that's in the hole. And go ahead and get your screw in. Now when you're putting your screw in, just snug. We don't want to tighten it down. It's a circuit board, you can crack it. So we don't want to do that. At this point I like to make sure all my wiring is where it needs to be. I'm going to spread everything out the best I can. Next thing I'm going to work with is the front assembly for the guide. And there, if we look here, you can see the spring. We want to make sure that's in place. And it just falls in place with the wiring. You can just follow the pieces down to the wire, and everything will drop in where it needs to go. Because we haven't disconnected anything, so we don't have to feed anything through or route anything. Okay. So I just lay these two pieces on top, and then this piece here will just drop in. And it'll be the same thing with the two screws. Once again, be careful. We don't want to over tighten anything. Okay, that's in. Okay, now if we pay attention and look at our light boards, we'll find that the light boards will tend to go naturally where they're supposed to go. And those just carefully push them in place. You'll see where they go. And just very carefully put them in place. Make sure your LEDs are where they're supposed to be. In the fronts, the LEDs are up. And in the rear, the LEDs are outboard. And they just drop right into place. Okay, let's talk a little bit about wire routing. A lot of times you'll see there's a little clip or something for the wire to sit into. If not, you want the wiring for your rear lights, you want it underneath the rear axle. So you can remove your rear axle for servicing without having to remove your wiring. All your other wiring is over the front of the axle. And I tend to just roll everything together best you can. And I'll try to push the wiring, just carefully manipulate it to where you think it needs to go, just to stay clear and get it out of the way. Okay, that takes care of reinstalling the electronics. It was very quick and easy, and it made this repair very quick and easy, a lot easier than trying to do it within the car. So don't be afraid to remove your electronics. Just be mindful and be careful with what you're doing. And like I say, I tend to stay away from these little connectors because they're little, they're tiny, and they can be hard to manipulate. So that being said, this wraps up episode 6. And if you guys got any questions, once again, hit me up. Other than that, have a great day.